Hi everyone, good afternoon. And yeah, post-lunch sessions, difficult, right? Anyway, I will try to keep things interesting. I have like 30 minutes to probably stop you from sleeping in the next 30 minutes. And yeah, maybe a lot of talks today will be very heavy, but this one is not going to be one. It's going to be pretty light, and hopefully you will like the easy content, right? So let's begin. Reimagining what's possible with Generative AI Studio. And before I start, how many of you have heard of that term before? Generative AI Studio. Raise your hands high. This is something which I'll make you do the entire session, right? Raising your hands high. Okay, how many of you were here in the session in the morning? How come you did not hear about Generative AI Studio? Anyway. So hi, I'm Anubhav, co-founder DynoPy, Google developer expert for Google Cloud. Bunch of other things. If you're interested in any of them, do let me know. And happy to talk. And if you want to give me nice feedback, post about me, nice things, you can tag me on that handle. I have the same username everywhere. And if you have bad feedback, if you tag me, I'll block you. Anyway, let's get started. Introduction to Generative AI. Introduction to Generative AI. Sounds so redundant now, right? And I think, fair question. Do I need to tell? Do I need to tell? No? No? I think this is the right explanation for it right now. Also, let's add to the list DevFest Bangalore organizers. Yeah. But anyway, because I have been asked to come here on the stage and talk to you about generative AI, I still try to give you a boring definition of the same. It's basically a small subclass of machine learning algorithms which tries to mimic human-generated content, right? The ways in which a human generates a content, what are the 3 ways in which we generate content? Anyone? Anyone? Text. We write, that is text. Or maybe we type these days. Images, we click photos, we draw things, images. And what else? Sound. Some of us cry a lot, right? So sound. We also speak, so that's another thing. And if we combine these, then we have, what do we have? Video with subtitles. The way we watch movies, right? Video with subtitles. So that is what generative AI tries to do. And you know, it started just like almost one year ago, right? And you know, before I go into that, let's have this question out here. What is possible with generative AI, right? Generating emails, generating letters for what kind of letters do you generate? Leave letters. That's all you will be doing. You can just replace some of the letters and you will get more interesting letters. Anyway, what else? What else? Summarizing, right? So these are the standard ones, right? What else have you done? Anyone here in the hall who can talk to me about something very interesting that they did? Anyone? This is Bangalore, come on. I know all of you have done something weird with it. Yeah, anyone? Yes, there in the back. Can we get a mic over there, please? Please stand up so that you can be easily identified. Yes? Someone wants to run with the mic? Okay, we have a mic reaching in 3, 2, and 1. He got the mic, yes.
I had used Dan GPT for any other sort of stuff which normally I generally don't provide. Heard of Dan GPT?
So what did you do with it? Like what did you generate with that?
Any normal text which you can't generate normally, like how can I explain it here?
Come on, give me an example. Publicly.
Like any toxic things, which you won't get from a normal AI. Dan GPT has the prompt to get that.
What kind of relationship are you in that you need to generate toxic content?
Not toxic, vulnerable, anything you can generate from it. Okay. You can get the code in GitHub itself for the Dan GPT prompt.
Is this being recorded? Okay, awesome, awesome.
We
Do
can
give
get
me some more examples
we
later
can
on.
get the prompt from GitHub to manipulate the GPT.
Awesome.
There are
Okay,
some
so
prompts.
doing the wrong things.
Yeah, to exploit the AI, sort of.
Awesome. Exploit the AI. That is what we wanted to hear, right? Anyway, someone who has done more legal things. And anyone in the hall? Yes, yes, there. Please stand up so that the people can identify you. Yes. Let's run with the mic. Yeah. While he is going to be speaking about that, do think of other examples, possibly more legal. Yeah.
Yeah, hi. So, okay, so basically we know that every single time we see a reply from GPT, it sounds way too formal sometimes,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So one thing I've realized is this, let's say you have friends who are sad a lot and they come to you to cry, let's say, right? And you don't know how to respond because you see this every single day. You're just like, again, man. So one thing is, if these people ever went to therapy or something, you say something normal but with a very formal tone, they feel like it's very good advice. So I just made GPT say something like regular, hey, my friend is sad, what do I say? But make it more formal. And I just said it, saying like, hey, I went to a therapist once, this is what she told me. And then I said exactly what GPT said. And after a few minutes, my friend was okay. She's like, wow, that's great advice. So, yeah.
What's your name? What's your name, please?
Oh, I'm Viraj.
Angraj.
Viraj. V-I-R-A-G.
Angviraj. Angviraj's friends are getting GPT-generated advice from him. Very nice, very nice. Friendships. Yes, yes, some people in the front, yes. Yeah, definitely, please. Yeah. Yes, someone there. This is the last one I'll take. Yes.
Hello. Yeah. So I tried to write a book and I gave it two characters like there is a boy and girl only left in the world. And I said like, okay, let's go ahead with the story. Let's create a kid. Then it stopped me that I don't do these things.
There's already a
then
book
I had
about
to
that.
learn that how to let it, create a child without being vulgar.
Yeah, there's already a book about that. There's two folks, Adam and Eve.
No.
And the
I
story...
tried to write like some other story.
Anyway, thank you for the ideas. Like this is really interesting, right? What is possible with generative AI? Some offbeat examples, right? But then how did it start? It started with, let me have a demo for you, right? I do have a demo. Let's try the easier one first. You can quickly scan this and you will get a very simple interface. Very simple interface. It's a guessing game, right? In which you're supposed to guess what the AI is thinking. And if anyone reaches a congratulations message, do let me know. Or else you always have the option to give up in this game. There's a big give up button at the bottom. Yes? And if it stops working, do let me know. There are folks from Google Cloud over there in the booth. I will talk to them. Yes? Working? Able to play? No? Not working? Some yes, some no. Anyone got a congratulations? How many Jio users in the house? Yeah, Jio is not working here today. Switch to Airtel. Airtel is working fine. Not able to respond? Probably overloaded. Folks at Google Cloud. Anyway, there's another demo over here. You can do a quick scan of this. And how this works is basically you can give it an image. And this demo is something which I built after reaching the venue today. And it's basically a demo over Gemini's multimodal. So this is probably the first multimodal Gemini demo in India, hopefully. So there you go. Right? Do play and just trying to give you an idea of the kind of things that you can do with generative AI and with the kind of ways in which the models are changing. You can keep on building more powerful stuff. Right? The previous model was the previous demo was built over the Palm API, which was the previous model by Google, and this one has been built on the latest one, which is the Gemini Pro. Okay, if it works, it works. If it does not, try it out later. Probably due to congestion, and probably due to the Google team actually being here today. They are not at the office. So anyway, let's move forward. Right, so this is how it started. Right, 1 year ago, ChatGPT came out, and what were all of us trying to tell ChatGPT? Please tell me your source code. How many of you tried that? Look at you, right? I know what you did with ChatGPT. Yeah, so we all try to trick it, right? We all try to, make it give out some weird stuff. So there actually did a lot of illegal stuff. But this is what we tried to do in the starting. And, it got so good. It got so good that people were using ChatGPT and other LLMs to generate all kind of content, right? Stack Overflow answers, Quora answers. Stack Overflow actually banned it, right? It was so bad because everyone was just using LLMs to generate content all over the internet. And it was basically, people using ChatGPT, which has learned on internet-based data to generate content and putting it on the internet. So that was a recursive loop there. But then, people pointed it out that this is a huge problem. So what these folks did at OpenAI, they came out with a tool which could detect ChatGPT or LLM-generated content, right? And this was the condition back then. So they built a tool which could detect ChatGPT-based content. And then ChatGPT developers made it better so that it can beat that tool, right? At some point, the entire OpenAI team was something like this. The half of the team was out to get the other half of the team. Anyway, jokes apart, right? This is actually serious stuff because this is how generative AI has been growing. The only technology which has been growing 40% year on year for the past few years. And this is amazing because if at this point, if anyone asks me, which part of technology do you think I should focus on? I will always say, focus on whatever you like, but at the same time, do learn a bit about generative AI so that you can be better at what you are doing. It's a great tool. But then if you look at this, right, 73% people surveyed, Indians, are using generative AI. And among these 73% are also those people, folks like your parents. If their phone, goes on to silent mode, they ask you to fix it, right? Even these people are using generative AI at this point of time. 67% of IT leaders say that it's going to be a priority in the next 18 months, right? 2 out of 3. And 1 out of 3 is saying it's top priority. So this is a great time for anyone to switch into generative AI, to anyone to, learn generative AI and how to use it for their jobs so that, when these people come out with companies, with startups, you're actually standing there ready to say that, hey, I'm going to be a part of your team. Or maybe you would be the one who is developing these things, right? So great time for generative AI. But then there are some uses beyond the trend, for example, illegal content and the other stuff mentioned. And one of them is using LLMs to generate mock interview questions and responses. I have provided links to all these examples which I'm giving. You can actually click on this and you can get the prompt which I have used for building this. And I've simply used Google Bard for this. And if you see, this is the kind of prompt which I gave. And I got a nice interview, stuff. And there's a friend who actually used this and interviewed for Google and got in, right? So if you want to go into Google, probably start using Bard. That's one example. Then there's another, which is homework grading, right? If you're a teacher or if you know someone who is a teacher, you can definitely, take a photo of the answer sheet and ask Bard or any of the LLMs to evaluate the answers. For primary education, this is very easy stuff. You don't need, teachers to read through bad handwriting anymore. Then there's language trainer. Language trainer, if you want to learn new language. So there's this thing, right? When people from different countries come to India, those who do not speak, say, Hindi or any of the local languages, we Indians love to teach them curse words first, right? Yeah, all sorts of curse words. We want to teach them, like, hey, this is a curse word, go and say this to the other person, and then we will laugh. This is what we do, right? How many of you have enjoyed that at some point of time? Yes? Such proud raising of hand, right? I like that, yeah. But then it could also be, right? When we try to learn a new language, even we try to learn the curse words first. How many of you have, that? Okay. Yeah, fair confession. We try to learn the curse words first. And imagine if Duolingo, right? If Duolingo was actually going to teach you a new language by starting with the curse words. Would it be fun? Would you like it? Would you enjoy it? Yes? And say, for example, if you want to learn French and you start out with the curse words first, your learning would something be like this. No, it's a legit French word. Yeah, but then generative AI on Vertex AI, right? How is it there on Vertex AI? And currently, the most powerful way it is available is through Gen AI Studio on Vertex AI itself. And since I'm not using Gen AI Studio, maybe that is why my demo went overflow. But then probably if I was using this and if I had a lot of money, it would work. This is how it looks now. Some days back, it was different. I had to update my slides in middle of giving this presentation everywhere because they decided to, as Google is recently been doing, they are renaming all their products to Studio for some reason. So this is now Vertex AI Studio, no more Generative AI Studio. And these are the ones which are there. And the most interesting thing was the multimodal powered by Gemini. Right? This is the new one. Initially, it was not there, but now there's a multimodal model available. And then there's Gen App Builder, and this is how it looks. Finally, there's MakerSuite, which now got renamed to Google AI Studio. And this is what it looked like earlier, and this is what it looks like now. And the difference is that if you see on the model side, there's Gemini Pro over there, right? So if you have a Google account, you can just go to MakerSuite and start using Gemini Pro and Gemini Pro Vision. Gemini Pro Vision APIs have been used in the second demo which you saw, and Gemini Pro has been used in the first demo that you saw. And let me take a look at Generative AI Studio. Instead of going through the slides, I will directly take you to the Generative AI Studio itself. So this is what you need to go to Google Cloud. And on the left side, scroll down to Vertex AI. And this was initially Generative AI Studio, but now it's just Vertex AI Studio. So once you come in here, these are the options available. And if you want to train something of your own, you can always go to Model Garden. And you will find a bunch of models available here for training on your own custom data if you wanted to. Foundation models as well as fine-tunable models, a lot of them. And these models available over here are not just from Google, but also from third-party providers. And say if you wanted to have an instance of, say, Llama for yourself, you could also use that right from Model Garden. It would deploy on Vertex AI's infrastructure itself. The catch being all the infrastructure is yours, and you will be the one paying for it. Right? So remember that. That is why I have not used Vertex AI Studio APIs, because, okay, costly. Anyway, let me come back to the slides. And these are just stuff which I'm going to jump over because we have already seen these Model Garden. And then, yes, obviously, there's a lot of content in my slides, which I'm not going to be speaking today. But then once I share the deck with you after my session, do feel free to read through them. These are mostly just generic stuff, which are more about Vertex AI than Generative AI Studio. Right, so let me jump over these and yeah, fine-tuning models, right? Very quickly, how many of you have tried fine-tuning? Yes? Can anyone tell me what is fine-tuning? Yes, over there.
So in fine-tuning, basically you take the base model that you have and you're trying to change the weights of the inference layer so that it basically gives you responses that are fine-tuned to your data.
That's a great response, and I'll actually focus on the last part. Thank you. That it actually provides answers based on the data which you have provided, right? So you might have a lot of your own company data or any kind of data which is like private to you, and you do not want to share it with, let's say, OpenAI or even Google. So you can just use one of the foundation models, fine-tune it to work on your data, and then whatever questions you're asking to the model, you will get the answer based on your data, right? So there's that, and then obviously there's Vertex AI. And then finally, let me look at how did we build that model, how did we build that demo, and I'll show you how we did that. If you scan this QR code, you will be taken to a code lab, which will show you how we built that. And while I'll show you the code lab, at the same time, I'll also show you the code directly so that you can understand it in an easier way. If you see this code lab, then there's also a repository which you can look at if you prefer a repository over a code lab. And if you want to scan it, it's up to you. If you do not want to, I'll anyway show it to you right now, and you can get the link later when I share the deck. That said, let me come to the code. So this is essentially the main driver code of the entire thing, and this is what it looks like. Right now, I'm giving you the example of using multimodal Gemini model, and for that, you will need this particular package, google.generative AI, and to install that, it's as simple as google-generative AI. Once you have done that, you will need to figure out the API key. There are two ways you can do this. Since I'm using an API key, I'm going to be using MakerSuite-based APIs, right? MakerSuite is the one which is available for development, testing, for hobbyists, instead of Vertex AI, which is available for people who want to go on to production at a large scale, right? So MakerSuite is much more for testing and not meant for production, while the one which is available through Vertex AI Studio on Google Cloud is meant for production. I also have an example included of how to do it with Vertex AI Studio. It's on a different branch on the same repository. I'll show you that later. But right now, I'm using a API key. If you're going to run this on Google Cloud Run, you don't have to, there's a way that you can use it without setting this particular API key, but only if you're going to use Vertex AI Studio. If you're going to use MakerSuite, you will still need to set the API key. That said, this is the model configuration. Right now, I've kept the temperature 0, and there's a couple of settings which I've made here, and the max output tokens I've said is 500. By default, this is set to 2048, but in case of my game, the one which I developed, I don't need a lot of output coming out, and that's why to reduce the cost, I've put it at 500. Then there are some safety settings. I think a great feature on probably the only API that I've used is that you can define the safety settings, and you can define how much control do you want over the output which is coming in. And then I'm finally using the Gemini Pro Vision. I've instantiated it using GenAI.generative model. This is a new function, actually a new class added to this particular library. It was not there around 5 days back. So this is a new one in which you can load the models into a model variable. Initially, it was not happening. Initially, you had to directly call the API and the model at the same time, went through the config. But right now, you can load the model separately. That said, this is the main one, the chat route. This is the main one which is doing all the work. It's basically taking in a file, an image data, and it's converting it to bytes. So whatever images you are going to pass to the library, you will have to pass them off as bytes. And the MIME type has been detected automatically as file.content type, which is available when you are using Flask. And that said, this is the prompt. You are Sheldon Cooper. User will upload an image. Based on the image, you have to come up with a Sheldon Cooper style fun fact. Also give a funny, sarcastic note about the image, and then the user's image. How this looks like when you are developing this is available here. So this is what I basically did. If it opens, yeah. So this is essentially the same thing which you saw in the code. This is exactly the same thing. You are Sheldon Cooper, user will upload an image, and there's the user's image, and then the fun fact. Right? And if you see, then this is user's image over here, and then fun fact, right? So basically, exactly this, whatever I have developed in MakerSuite, I've simply clicked on Get Code, and I have got the code over here, and I've simply copied it, right? So it's as easy as that to get started with using Gemini Pro or Gemini Pro Vision models using MakerSuite. And the best part is MakerSuite is free, so you will not be incurring any kind of bills. So that said, very simple, response.model.generate content, and then output the response.text. As simple as that. And then if I click here and run it, which is pretty much the same as you all uploading the image from the UI which I presented, and then clicking the upload button. So this is one of the examples of what you can be doing with generative AI. And another example which I want to show you is for creating a game, right? Imagine a game in which the story generates based on the choices that you are making. Let me quickly log in. Yes. So imagine a game in which the story keeps on changing based on whatever you are choosing in the story, right? So this is a story of In this story, you are a player who has got a direct admission to Hogwarts, and you are 16-year old, and you are getting a direct admission to the 5th year, and you have two options, right? Proceed to the sorting ceremony or explore Diagon Alley. So if you click on proceed to the sorting ceremony, then you will see that the story will keep on changing based on whatever choices you are making, right? So you can just keep on making your choices, and you can keep on generating content, generating scenery, generating whatever you wanted to, right? Maybe characters, when you click on them, they probably speak something, anything which you want to do, right? So just another of what is possible with generative AI. There is actually no backend to this game. Game development, for anyone who has done here, game development, especially text games like this, requires a lot of time, lot of effort to type in the scenarios, type in the options, what will happen if you click on an option, right? So this is something which takes hours to build on a normal day without generative AI. But with generative AI, it's basically just one API call, right? So anyway, let's get back. And this is how you could have built it. And finally, let me talk about quickly about the problems and possible solutions if you're using generative AI on production. Before I delve into this section, how many of you are actually using generative AI on production right now? Yes? Raise your hand high. You are probably my best target audience right now, 5 people in the room. Rest of you do listen through. Yeah, so the biggest challenges right now of putting generative AI to production, first of all, the cost, right? Generative AI is costly, right? For the 5 people, do you agree? Yes? Generative AI is pretty costly to put in production. And then the possibility of models generating offensive, unsafe, or illegal content, not that sir over there cares, but it can, and it can be a problem for others, the rest 400 or so people in the room, right? So when I say offensive, unsafe, or illegal content, it could definitely not exactly be, just slangs coming out of the model response. No, it could be something else as well. I'll come to that later. And then the time taken to generate the content, right? This is very annoying. The amount of time it takes to generate the response from the model, right? And not a great thing to have. So first of all, the cost, right? The cost keeps growing. Every time you have a conversation with an LLM model, which is not strictly made for chat, right? All these LLM models, the general ones, they are made as completion models, right? You try to complete whatever has been said by the user, the prompt, you try to complete over that, right? So these models, if you try to have a chat with them, they will quickly grow in the cost that they are going to take from you. And then, the kind of content that you are generating, it will have different type of costs based on, what kind of content you are trying to come up with. High resolution imagery, very large size images, they're obviously going to cost much higher than smaller images, probably black and white. And you need to figure out a way to solve these things, right? And if you forget to put a rate limit on whatever APIs you are using, some of you faced the rate limit in my demo as well. I did not go broke because I had the rate limit. So maybe you cannot see my demo right now, you can see it later, but at least that's not burning a hole in my pocket, right? So rate limiting is like really, really important. You need to have that in place all the time. And if you do not, then yeah, good luck, right? So these are some of the solution strategies for cost. First of all, rate limit hard. Any day you're putting up a generative AI based API for production, first thing you need to do, rate limit it. Otherwise, you're going to have a very huge bill. Then you can obviously think about offloading the inference to the user's side. And you can also think about using it smartly. For those of you who were able to play my first demo today, the one about guessing what the model was thinking about, you had a conversation-like interface there, right? You had a conversation-like interface. But my cost did not grow exponentially. Can anyone tell me why that was so? My cost was not growing there. But it was a chat-like interface, right? I told you chat-like interfaces lead to higher cost. How was I able to keep it in control? Anyone? Yes? Token limit. No, I did not limit the tokens there. Yes? Sorry? Context window. No.
You cached the responses.
I did not cache the responses. Sorry, I could not hear that. No.
Instead of using...
Sorry? No chat history, that is right. I did not use a chat history there. Although it was looking like a chat to you, it was not using chat history at all. Every hit to the API was a single hit of one single context and prompt, right? There was no chat history in that. And I made it look like it was a chat, right? So you can think about smarter ways of doing things like that as well. You could try to fool the user. And finally, yes, charging different types of costs for different type of generations. Very standard way. Pretty much every LLM service provider charges a different cost for a different kind of API, right? The more powerful, the more costly, usually. That said, unsafe content. Yeah, I think these are the two biggest challenges which you can come up with in terms of unsafe content. First of all, being model hallucination, in which the model outright gives out wrong information. And then there's copyright content, right? If your model at any point starts producing copyrighted content, you could be pressed charges on by anyone who owns that copyright. And finally, illegal content, right? By illegal content, I don't necessarily mean that the model is giving out slangs, but rather something which is illegal in India might be legal elsewhere in the world. Or maybe something which is okay to do in India is illegal elsewhere, right? Think about, say for example, there was an image model which could generate maps of countries of the world. How much problem would we have, right? Pretty much every other country is in some sort of fight with their neighbor about the borders, right? And if the same model was generating content everywhere, they would have lawsuits in every alternate country, right? So something which is legal here, illegal there, and that could be a cause of problem for your application if you were using it in the other country. That said, these are some solutions which you can have for unsafe content. And having an additional step of moderation, although it sounds costly, it can actually save a lot of stuff. And if you have an API like Google's, then you can definitely just put it in the API call itself, within the model API call itself, about the kind of safety that you want. And fine-tuning models is always a great solution if you want to do that. Finally, time taken for generation, that's a huge problem. And in this, if you look at the final part which I mentioned, right, a model capable of higher output rates is susceptible to blown up cost. So think about it like this, a very simple example. If you have an API which is able to generate 100,000 responses in a second, and another API which is able to generate, say, 1,000 responses in a second, if your system was compromised for 1 second, which one would cost you more, right? Which one would create a bigger hole for your pocket? So just saying, take this back, right? If you have a faster API, it does not necessarily mean that you are solving the problem of time taken for generation. You might be creating another issue of security for yourself. So faster APIs are not the solution all the time. Finally, time taken for generation. These are the ways in which you could solve it. Fine-tuning, again, plays an important role. Fine-tuning is a great thing to do if you can do it, if you have available data, and if your scenario calls for it, try to do that. It will solve a lot of things for you, including like unsafe content and time taken for generation, and also the amount of compute it costs you for generating it, right? So that said, I think we are towards the end of this session, right? If you want to learn more, you can click any of these links once you have the slide deck video, which I'll be sharing very shortly. And that's all. Thank you. Finally, I'll post this for offline. And if you want to get connected with me anywhere, these are my credentials. If you want to scan a QR code, once again, then you can scan this. This is the same QR code which was there on the earlier slide. And yeah, if we are done with this, then finally, this is the deck. And this has all the QR codes and all the links and whatever you want to click around. There's a lot of content as well, which you can try to read through. So thank you.